This video is sponsored by Brilliant. Hey, Marcus House with you here. This week of space news has been yet another significant one, with the Mars helicopter Ingenuity taking on that low altitude flight test successfully. A lot to talk about with the Crew 2 mission, which is incredibly exciting, and of course all that is going on at Boca Chica with Starship and the launch and production facility.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
So as we know by now, last week's news broke about SpaceX being awarded almost $3 billion by NASA to land humans back on the moon for the very first time in almost 50 years. To say that we were both surprised and thrilled was an understatement. SpaceX was of course in the running alongside Blue Origin and Dynetics, but they massively undercut both of those suppliers, offering to essentially pay for a good percentage of the development costs themselves. Due to that and NASA's budget being very constrained, there was no opportunity for the competition at all. This is massive news, and the main takeaway is this: SpaceX are not only a part of the space industry that in the past many have scoffed at, they are now clear leaders of the industry, also pushing the boundaries well past what any other agency is aiming for. That is of course the Starship program, and if you are new to the development of the Super Heavy and Starship vehicle, you have been missing out. We cover this stuff every week, so if you want to follow this progress along with almost 300,000 others, you know what to do. Really close to that goal now, thanks for all the subscribers. So we start with the updates for last week at the launch complex. Here we are yet again awaiting the test flight of the next Starship prototype, Starship number 15. As shown here with photos by the amazing Boca Chica gal with NASA spaceflight and also RGV aerial photography, we have the heat shield tiles there being filled in. That is very nice to see, and my obsessive compulsive disorder thanks you there, SpaceX. I thought you may have been leaving it like this, which was just hurting my brain. Now, as we explained in our video 2 weeks ago, there are many changes to this prototype over the previous Starship number 11. 15 is classed as the next evolution of the Starship prototypes and has a plethora of upgrades aiming to go one step further than its predecessors. One of the more critical upgrades to this next prototype getting ready to fly is the Raptor engine configuration and fuel lines. Although Starship 8 through to 11 have all successfully launched, flipped and skydived successfully, only Starship 10 managed to land upright on the pad before then exploding due to the hard touchdown caused by the Raptor engine not producing enough thrust. Then came 11, which exploded at around 650 meters in altitude during the Raptor relight procedure that initiates the flip maneuver. This resulted in the vehicle falling to the ground in many pieces under thick fog. Now, a little over a week ago, the three Raptor engines, number 54, 61 and 66, were all rolled to the launch site. Installation tasks then began soon after, with the goal of readiness for the opening static fire test window on Monday, April the 19th. Raptor SN15 was the first to be lifted into the engine bay of the Starship prototype, followed the same night by Raptor 66. Each of these Raptors took just over an hour to install, which is a major advantage with these next generations of powerful engines. Part of their upgrades includes the plumbing updates to make the install process much simpler and quicker. Interestingly, however, the plans for the Monday static fire soon slipped as Raptor number 54 was rolled out of the launch facility and back to the production facility in the early hours of the morning. The cause of this is still unknown, however it is believed that they found an issue with the Raptor and had to take it back for repairs. At around 10 PM on Sunday, this same Raptor was then taken back and installed early the next morning. So although this hiccup caused a few days of delays, all seemed to then be a-okay. Remember that these prototypes are changing quite dramatically between versions, so having teething issues, especially with the Starship prototype, is expected. Starship 15 is once again repeating the high altitude 10-kilometer flight, which will utilise the redundancy of relighting 3 Raptors during the landing flip before deselecting that engine with the least lever arm should all 3 fire up correctly. It'll then attempt to land softly on just 2 engines to cover a potential loss of thrust as seen on Starship 10. A lot of work has continued at the orbital launch pad this week as well. Early on Monday, the second ground support equipment, or GSE-2 tank, was rolled out of the mid-bay and made its way to the orbital pad. This tank was then lifted atop the concrete stand that very evening. Also, the first of 4 columns was lifted onto the new integration tower. This tower, once complete, will be used to stack a Starship atop a Super Heavy and will also feature arms that will catch the booster as well. We'll be watching that construction very closely. To news over at the production facility, all eyes are now on Starship SN20, which is the very first orbital class prototype aiming to fly to orbit by July. If that doesn't happen by then, it would be caused by factors that they can't control. This means that the orbital flight date will not be delayed if SN15, 16 and 17 do not complete all milestones. SpaceX is now aware that it's going to require numerous flights to fine-tune its landing process. As such, they will be testing the orbital flight and landing process in parallel. The work has continued on the mystery nose cone this week as well. As we see progress develop, we have more of an idea now as to what this is. This is essentially a test cage that is to be used to test all of the pressures involved with max Q. That is the moment in the launch when the rocket is undergoing maximum dynamic pressure. At that specific point during the launch, the rocket is feeling a lot of physical pressure from punching its way through the atmosphere at very high speed. This is a significant factor in the design of launch vehicles like Starship, and we see SpaceX call out max Q in Falcon 9 flights as well. So this cage structure here allows SpaceX to test the Starship nose cone with strain gauges here in a number of locations. OBL here on Twitter has been creating many renders of how all of this has been evolving as well. The nose cone has just recently rolled down to the launch facility to, we assume, begin that testing phase. How this will play out remains to be seen. SN16's tank section has now been fully stacked in the mid-bay and is now awaiting for its turn in the high bay for nose cone mate operations. SN17 has most sections ready now for stacking, which should commence once SN16 is rolled out. What is also very interesting is that SN20's common dome is sleeved already, and this has occurred before any of SN18's domes being sleeved. We're actually speculating at this point that SpaceX may well be skipping straight from SN17 to SN20. To add further support to that argument, SN19 hasn't seen any progress in a long time now either. The current plan seems to be for SN15, 16 and 17 to fly over the next couple of months to refine that landing manoeuvre. Then it is believed that SN20 and booster number 3 will be rolled to the pad in June to begin testing and completing an orbital flight soon thereafter. This may sound crazy, but SpaceX is definitely speeding up their production and testing times down at Boca Chica. We have booster number 2, or BN2, which has had significant changes over BN1, with its tank now in the reverse order. This is now the same as Starship, with liquid oxygen on the bottom and liquid methane on the top. For whatever reason, they were reversed in BN1. That explains why BN1 didn't roll to the launch site at all, given the significance of that change to the design. BN1 did still provide useful production Pathfinder objectives though, so it wasn't a total loss. We should see BN2 stacking soon much quicker by taking advantage of the recently installed bridge crane that is now in the high bay. The very near future of these super heavy boosters is going to really start bringing home the full capability that Starship will provide based on its design. It's always good to imagine our planet as this tiny speck within the unimaginable size of the universe. This point right here containing everything we've ever learned since we first became mature enough as a species to have what we would call a conscious thought. Now here we are, the first time that we know of that life evolved on this 4.5 billion year old rock, which has the intelligence necessary now to explore and hopefully colonize another world. Each week you see the comment threads here flooded with individuals that don't get it. They think it is a waste of resources, but this is not so. There are very few endeavors that I can think of that are this incredible. The technology alone that would be gained by striving for this future future would blow your mind. So much of what is researched and developed for survival in space has changed our world for the better. Huge investment into this will provide astounding new benefits to all here on Earth just as a byproduct alone. The animation created by Matt Ryan here is an astounding example of the enthusiasm felt by the entire community. If you are not following on Twitter, do yourself a favour and change that right now, because there is a lot more of this coming. Just imagine a world where it is common to see vehicles like Starship sending huge mass into orbit at a tiny fraction of the current cost. This changes everything around space exploration. The colossal super heavy booster in development at around 70 meters in height, along with the Starship on top at around 50 meters tall, means the full stack towers 120 meters from the ground. This will be the most powerful machine ever built. Period. Just let that sink in for a second. We've become quite used to seeing the Falcon 9 land over the last few years. Just imagine seeing this super heavy beast, almost 2.5 times wider than the Falcon 9, come screaming into touchdown on the pad. Add to that the ability for it to potentially be caught right out of the air, and this will be an astounding spectacle. From there, rapid reuse is the key. Load up the next Starship and away we go again to refill the ship destined for the moon, for Mars and beyond. As Elon Musk has said many times, you want to wake up in the morning and think the future is going to be great, and that is what being a spacefaring civilization is all about. It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future is going to be better than the past. Colonizing Mars and exploring is the first tiny step in this journey, but it is actually the most important step. Without this step, we go nowhere. We remain confined, perhaps forever, to a single planet species. For those of you that just don't get it, do yourself a favor one day. Go and watch one of these colossal launches as they start occurring. If you can walk away not being amazed by the awesomeness of this, I'd be very surprised. This is astounding stuff, and we are quite literally watching the future being made right here, right now. Thanks again to Matt Ryan for creating this. Go and check out the full video with the full resolution and audio. It will blow you away. The link is in the description. Now, we had another great milestone this week with Crew 2 setting off for their epic journey, launching from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, Florida in the early hours of April 23rd. This next crew rotation for NASA's Commercial Crew program was of course destined for the International Space Station the next day. We have JAXA's Akiko Hoshide, NASA's Shane Kimbrough and Megan MacArthur, and ESA's Thomas Pesquet, who needed to spend almost 24 hours in the capsule chasing down their home for the next 6 months before finally docking with the forward port on the International Space Station. It certainly will be a busy time for the crew, with over 230 science experiments to conduct within that time frame. Although this is the second commercial crew flight, Commander Kimbrough did say that until they have had several years of missions under their belts, these missions here should still be considered test flights. So there will be 11 people on the International Space Station as the new crew joins the collective, along with the assortment of docked crew and cargo vehicles. In just a matter of days though, this number is going to be reduced to 7 with the departure of Crew 1, who have been in orbit since November 2020. Booster 1061, the same booster that sent them on their way last year, returned for this mission as well. This is the very first time that a booster has been reused for a crew flight. So yes, best of luck to Crew 2 and the incredible mission that they have ahead. Now, let's move on to arguably the biggest achievement in spaceflight this week. I'm of course talking about the absolutely incredible flight performed by the Ingenuity helicopter. This one was kind of a surprise. After the initial flight was delayed, it was assumed that Ingenuity wouldn't fly until the end of the month. However, the amazing team over at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory put their heads together and found a solution to Ingenuity's rotors not spinning up correctly. The updated software was sent to the helicopter and successfully tested on Friday. After this, NASA announced quickly that the flight was imminent, and on Monday the highly anticipated flight finally took place, with Ingenuity spinning up its blades to over 3,000 RPM. It then ascended to 3 meters where it hovered for a moment before slowly descending and landing, all without a hitch. Now that is just crazy to think about given the super thin atmosphere on Mars. With NASA live streaming the data being received on YouTube, we were all anxiously awaiting confirmation. When the successful flight was announced, the atmosphere in that control room was awesome to watch. Not long after, we also got the first image showing Ingenuity's shadow on the Martian surface. We were then shown a series of colour images from Perseverance showing Ingenuity hovering at 3 meters, followed by safely landing back down to the ground, shutting down its rotors after its 39.1 second flight. On Thursday, Ingenuity took to the Martian skies yet again. This second flight was much more ambitious than the first, with it flying for 50 seconds to a height of 16 feet or 5 meters. It also pulled off a 5-degree tilt to change its direction of flight, along with it having a longer hover period. Huge congratulations to the Ingenuity team over at NASA. You kicked this out of the park. I can't wait to see more images and videos from the flight, and of course more future ambitious flights that are coming very soon. Staying on the subject of our robotic friends on Mars, Perseverance had a pretty exciting achievement this week as well. I'm of course talking about the successful Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, or MOXIE. This first experiment involved converting the carbon dioxide that makes up most of the Martian atmosphere into oxygen and carbon. This is obviously a very important experiment because humans need oxygen to survive, and there's not a lot of it in its raw form on Mars. So utilizing MOXIE, humans will be able to breathe on Mars, or at least make a breathable environment inside a Mars base. Now, unless you have been living under a rock the past year or two, I'm sure that you've all heard of Starlink. This is Elon Musk's new internet satellite constellation that hopes to bring fast and reliable internet access to areas where it has previously not been achievable. That said, you may not have heard of a similar project from Amazon called Kuiper. That's right, in the not too distant future, Amazon hopes to have its own internet satellite constellation. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but first, a big thank you to our sponsor, Brilliant. If you are anything like me, you would enjoy learning about space and science, perhaps even performing experiments of your own. Learning by doing is the most satisfying approach, and that is where our sponsor for today's video, Brilliant, comes in. This is a problem-solving website and app where you can learn to think like a scientist by performing your own thought experiments. Their active, hands-on learning style provides a deep understanding of the various terms and concepts involved in so many areas. Brilliant has loads of topics to cover, whether you want to start with the basics of science or computer science, mathematics, or even newer topics such as quantum computing. Just take this scientific thinking course. There are so many beautifully illustrated and animated concepts here. You will be amazed at what you can learn when solving puzzles with science, and it is such a great way for learners wanting to get that deeper understanding of the material using their own intuition. If you are naturally curious and you want to build up those problem-solving skills, then consider checking out Brilliant. At the same time, you could join me and a community of 8 million learners and educators by heading to brilliant.org/MarcusHouse. That will give the first 200 people 20% off the first year of Brilliant Premium. You'll find that link in the description below. So yes, in the not too distant future, Amazon hopes to have its own internet satellite constellation. This week, it was announced on Twitter that these satellites will initially be launched on top of 9 Atlas V rockets operated by United Launch Alliance. The final plan is to have a constellation that will be made up of 3,236 advanced satellites placed in low Earth orbit to provide fast and reliable broadband where it doesn't currently exist. The project itself is estimated to cost around $10 billion, and more than 500 people at Amazon are hard at work on the project, including a few ex-Starlink employees too. So I'm curious to see if the two will be similar because of this. Although the Atlas V is currently scheduled to be transporting the satellites, I imagine Amazon will partner with Blue Origin when its New Glenn is operational. This would help reduce those costs thanks to New Glenn's reusable first stage and Amazon's ties with Blue Origin's owner Jeff Bezos. Failing that, maybe they will switch to Vulcan Centaur when it becomes more mature. What do you think? Is Project Kuiper going to be able to compete with Starlink? Let me know in the comments. So that wraps up another week of space updates. Now, we are huge supporters of the transition to electric vehicles here on the channel, and our partner EV offers the ability to hire an electric vehicle in Australia. Perhaps you have wanted to take an extended test drive. You could be touring the country and want to drive around in a Tesla. If that sounds appealing to you, you can use the link in the description for a discount. Thanks to our amazing patrons and YouTube members as well. Your support contributes significantly to the frequency quantity and quality of these uploads. The support that you all here provide allows us to increase the time that we can collectively spend in research, editing, and quality control, and that is all thanks to that growing list of supporters that we can see right there. Thank you to each and every one of you. If you like what we're doing and you'd like to help support what we do, you can join as a YouTube member via the join button below, or you can become a patron at patreon.com/MarcusHouse. Either of those options gives you access to interact with me more directly via the linked roles on our Discord server. You can also have your names listed right here like all these other amazing people, and you also get earlier and ad-free access to these videos to watch before anyone else. Massive thank you especially to the production crew assisting greatly with the video production, along with the quality control squad for helping me research and proof the material for these videos. If you are interested in these topics and you would like to keep up to date, remember to subscribe here below and follow me on Twitter at MarcusHouse. In the tile in the bottom left today, we have my video from last week. In the top right is my latest video, and in the bottom right, content that YouTube has selected from my channel just for you. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.